Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 178 of the show with no name. I'm your humble host, Nick, and today we're back out here in the Greenwood Memorial Terrace. This is part 15 of my Greenwood Memorial Terrace series, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a couple hangings as well as a prominent businessman in the area. Let's get into this. Spokane's first legal hanging, Charles Brooks. I'm going to read an article from the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho Press from September 10th, 1892, and it reads, Charles Brooks, colored, was hung in the jail yard at Spokane at 8 o'clock Tuesday morning for the murder of his wife on the streets of Spokane by shooting her with a revolver over a year ago. Everybody in the county is familiar with the history of the crime, as the papers have published full particulars of the horrible deed, the trial, the conviction, and the sentence. And all are well informed as to the many attempts by his friends and attorneys to have his sentence commuted to imprisonment for life. But each and every attempt proved futile, the governor deciding that the law must take its course and that the murderer should pay for his crime on the gallows. Brooks was quite well off at the time of this tragedy, being the owner of 2 lots and a house valued at about $10,000. He spends his time in jail reading, smoking, and playing checkers, his favorite game. Not a very hard life, certainly, but with the thought of death ever present in his mind, it is hardly probable that he spends many happy moments. He is very glad to receive visitors and always welcomes them with the gracious manners of a true Southern man. At the time of the murder, Brooks was 62 years old, and his wife was 27 years old. Her name was Christine Dolman, and she was an immigrant from Sweden. There were many rumors regarding their relationship. She came here looking for riches, she was cheating on him, or that she thought he was a thriving businessman, but in truth, he worked as a janitor. Charles Brooks was the first person to be hung legally in Spokane, but there were more to come in the future. Mr. Brooks is buried in an unmarked grave somewhere over here in this area. He was buried in an unmarked grave for 2 reasons, one of them being nobody wanted to buy him a headstone, and the other reason being that they didn't want anybody to come desecrate the burial site afterwards. So he lays to rest somewhere in this area to this day. Edward M. Mayberry would be another man that was hung in Spokane, and he was born sometime in the year 1881, and he would pass away on April 19th, 1917. The Seattle Times on April 14th, 1917 reads, Hang Indian at Spokane. Spokane, Thursday, April 19th. Edward Mayberry was hanged at Fort George Wright today by the United States Marshal. He was convicted in the district court for killing Alice Vivian, an Indian woman. Jimmy Durkin was born in England on September 8, 1859, to Irish immigrants. His father, Thomas, was a coal miner, and he passed away in 1863, leaving his widow with 5 children. His mother would remarry in 1867, and they would immigrate to America. The family would move to the Midwest, but Jimmy, who was 9 years old at the time, remained in New York with an uncle. One of his jobs in those years was working at a bar and learning the liquor business. Eventually, Jimmy moved to Minnesota, where his mother and stepfather had finally settled. It was there that he met Margaret, and they were married on August 8, 1882. After their first son was born in September of 1884, Jimmy moved his family to the town of Colville in Washington Territory in 1886. There, he discovered that local bars were overpaying for freight deliveries. With his knowledge of the liquor business, he knew that he could cut costs. Durkin became Colville's 10th liquor distributor. He prospered, and within a few years, his $2,500 investment had grown in value to $65,000. Jimmy and Margaret's family also expanded while in Colville, with the births of 4 more children. Late in the spring of 1897, Durkin moved to Spokane, which at the time was booming. He located in a downtown storefront on the corner of Sprague and Wall and began retailing liquor. In an adjoining bar, he served fine alcoholic beverages and quality cigars. Durkin's bar offered better priced drinks than its competitors and earned a reputation as being respectable. He eventually had 2 other establishments, one on Sprague Avenue and the other on Howard Street. Durkin was known for his flair for advertising. Seeing the boulders along the road one day as he was on a stagecoach, he had an inspiration. He had a sign painter to apply Jimmy Durkin's fine wines and liquor on nearly every boulder along the roadway. Durkin also used bar window displays to promote his products and created uniquely shaped bottles and jugs. Prior to the national prohibition, Washington State was in the throes of a temperance movement. In 1907, a local Baptist minister took offense at Durkin's window displays and rallied from the pulpit on the evils of liquor, stating that he would like to put his own display at Durkin's. Learning this, Jimmy told the minister he could use all of Durkin's windows to advertise anything he wanted to, at Jimmy's expense. The minister created an 8-window display of alcohol's ability to destroy lives and dreams. Although they drew considerable attention over the next coming weeks, business at Durkin's increased dramatically. The minister finally conceded. Jimmy Durkin is a man of his word. Durkin proudly used the phrase as his motto ever since. Jimmy was known as a generous man. It was reported that he and other prominent Spokane businessmen made large personal cash contributions to the aid of the town of Wallace in Idaho after it was completely destroyed in the Big Burn of 1910. In 1915, Washington enacted a state of prohibition. Durkin was quoted as saying, "We finish here now. Someday there will be a reversal of the prohibition policy. In any case, I and my organization will give the law the strictest obedience." He wholesaled his current stock to various buyers and closed down 2 of his stores. His 3rd business was sold. Durkin was an outspoken individualist in a city not noted for progressive politics. He spent most days holding court, at his small wooden desk, doling out witty opinions on many topics. Durkin himself reflected a remarkably open mind for the times and earned a well-deserved reputation as the Main Avenue philosopher. He passed away on July 18, 1934.